There came a time in my life when I was 16 years old and I had a sister 2 years younger than me. At her 6th birthday, doctors discovered she had a rare form of leukemia. That was the beginning of 5 long years of struggle and treatment. After 3 years of stable health, she seemed to be back to a normal life. However, this period left an indelible mark on me. My existence for my parents took a back seat. I spent most of my time away from them, being sent to other relatives or left to my own devices. My birthday stopped being celebrated for several years, and Christmas celebrations always revolved around my sister. I was expected to show understanding and do everything I could to make sure she experienced joy and received gifts, because every Christmas could be her last. I felt miserable. Despite realizing that happiness was far from everyone's grasp, I felt like I existed in this family only as a support, trying to cheer my sister up. Sometimes when she wanted something, my parents were willing to turn the world upside down to fulfill her requests. Even things that were mine before her illness could be given to her. For example, my favorite bag chair, which now seems more valuable to me than it used to be, was given to her. If I brought any treats home from school, I was expected to give them to my sister to keep her spirits up. Sometimes when I didn't bring anything home for an extended period of time, my questions about whether I was eating it myself were taken as a crime. There were times when we would visit Santa, and I would pick out small toys in an effort to improve her mood, even if it meant choosing something cheap at the expense of quality. One birthday I had, which fell in June, I remembered particularly well. I was saving money with the intention of buying a gaming laptop, dreaming of it. My decision to save my paycheck by avoiding unnecessary purchases was driven by the desire to purchase a gaming laptop. It wasn't easy, but I pursued my goal. My 2 close friends, realizing my ambition, decided not to give me gifts, but instead gave me the money to buy my dream. They even escorted me to pick up a laptop last week. When I got home from school, my parents and sister met me in the living room. My parents stated without preamble that my sister would like to play computer games with her friends. They suggested that I give her my new gaming laptop, claiming that it would make more sense than buying another one. My silence was taken as doubt, and they added that I could always share it with my sister. This caused a flash of anger in me. I couldn't help myself and erupted, rudely expressing my disagreement. I ironically offered to give my sister everything I own, including my clothes and even my old bed that I had to sleep on for the past 12 years while she had a new one. I took things to the extreme, arguing that since she deserved everything in the world, I was entitled to nothing, since I had never been seriously ill as a child. My sister watched in silence, and my parents, initially taken aback by my reaction, soon flared up in response. They rebuked me for this behavior, causing tension in the family. Despite keeping my laptop behind me, I realized my deep remorse for my own words and actions, questioning my own maturity and understanding of the situation. You are not an idiot. You should have expected more attention to your needs from your parents, even despite the hardship of your sister's illness. It's important to be heard and appreciated as well. It's unfortunate that the situation is playing out this way. Your desire to protect your interests and possessions is justified. Indeed, in many families, similar dynamics happen. Hiding the laptop was a forced step. It is now imperative that you openly discuss your feelings and position with your parents. You put a lot of effort and resources into getting the laptop, including turning down gifts from friends. Therefore, you don't have to share it against your will. If your parents see the need for a shared laptop for the family, they should consider purchasing an additional device. A change in their attitude is required from now on. Your sister is healthy now, and it's time to recognize that attention must be fairly distributed among all family members. It must not be forgotten that they have 2 children, not 1. This realization should come as soon as possible. The experiences you have had have taught you resilience and self-reliance. Unfortunately, your sister may have learned to take advantage of the situation by following your parents' example. But when you start leading an independent life, the situation will improve. It's important to find your own personal space and emotional stability. Once you start your own family and gain independence, everything will fall into place. The lesson learned from these trials is not to expect help from the wrong place and to build your own way forward, while maintaining physical and emotional distance for your own well-being. Next story. I do not drive and reside in my cozy abode with my beloved dogs. My children are now adults, and as a widow, I have converted my garage into a legal guest house equipped with everything you need for a comfortable stay. This space has a separate bathroom and kitchen, providing convenience during visits with my children. Recently, my parents expressed a desire to move in with me. After coordinating with my children, I notified them that if they arrived, the guest house in the garage would be occupied and they would have to be housed in the main building. My parents arrived on the agreed-upon day, while the kids and their families arrived to help with the move. One of the families had even arranged to stay in the hotel so that no one would be cramped. However, the parents were surprised to learn that their new residence would be a garage. They had expected to be able to stay in one of the 5 bedrooms of the house. I explained that there are actually only 2 bedrooms in the house. One that I use as an office for client meetings, one that I use as a private study, and one that I use for my hobbies. The only available bedroom is usually reserved for friends. After explaining the situation, I offered my parents a decision. Either they could accept the offered accommodation in the garage or look for an alternative, such as a nursing home. This caused them disappointment, as they had not expected to find themselves as tenants in a private home that nevertheless met all the standards for comfortable living. You are far from being unreasonable. In fact, the offer of providing your parents with free housing that fully meets all standards seems very attractive. In case it is not enough for them, they can always consider other options. It is important to convey to them that you make the rules in your home and they should respect them. However, by allowing your parents into your primary residence, you run the risk of making it their permanent home, which can be a challenge. A friend of mine successfully converted her barn into a charming guest house with kitchen appliances and a private bathroom. Her parents now live there and they are completely happy with this solution. They value personal space and the opportunity to be close to their daughter. If your parents aren't comfortable with the idea of living in a guest house as renters, they should consider moving to a specialized retirement community that better suits their needs. Obviously, they are eager to live in a primary residence where you would handle their care. However, in a guest house, they would have to exercise more independence. They might also prefer to move there if they realize the benefits. If you're not used to closing your front doors to ensure privacy, whether it's for work, recreation, or something else, it's time to start doing so. It's also worth asking your parents to give you advance notice of your visit. A lack of response on your part will be a signal that you're busy and they should postpone the visit. Now I want to tell a different story. My spouse is 23 years old and I am 25. We are expecting the arrival of our firstborn. She is now 9 months pregnant and the baby is expected to be born in the next few weeks. During the waiting period, we have only had one major fight, which happened a couple of days ago. It concerned the choice of a name for our future baby. This quarrel arose after we found out the gender of the baby. We decided not to announce it beforehand and found out the gender during one of the checkups so that we wouldn't have to make 2 lists of names, of which one would have to be discarded. After finding out we were having a boy, we set about picking a name together. Most of the names she suggested seemed acceptable to me, until an argument arose over an unusual name, Moon. My spouse claimed that the name was inspired by a movie from her childhood and she had always liked it. I expressed concern that the name might seem unusual and cause ridicule, but after discussion we decided not to include it. The conflict seemed to subside, especially when it was time for the baby shower, a party to celebrate the imminent arrival of our firstborn, organized by my wife's mother, as this is the first grandchild in the family. The party had a lot of gifts, mostly traditional baby supplies. However, everything changed when my wife opened a gift from her mom. In the gift wrapping, she found a blue knitted blanket with Moon's name embroidered on it. I felt anger but was anxious to avoid public conflict, so the moment I saw the blanket, I chose to remain silent. Shortly thereafter, relatives approached me with questions about the chosen name, which I supposedly approved. Finding myself in an awkward situation, I could not find anything to answer as I myself was at a loss as to what was happening. This led to more irritation on my part. When the celebration was over and my wife and I headed home, I couldn't help myself and started a conversation about the controversial name. I expressed my opinion that the name seemed inappropriate for a child. In response, my wife defended her choice, to which I may have overreacted emotionally. My position was that if she liked the name Moon so much, perhaps she should have kept it for a future pet rather than a baby. This course of conversation deeply upset my wife, and she decided to leave for her mother's house, having previously informed me of her intention to stay there for some time. In the following days, discussing the incident with friends and acquaintances, I heard opinions in my favor, but reflecting on the incident made me think about my actions. Now, on reflection, I recognize that I could have acted wiser and handled the situation more tactfully. Your action does not make you stupid. The opinion that choosing character names for children from works of fiction may not be the best idea is a valid one. Your spouse obviously found inspiration in a French animated movie that she enjoyed. However, it is important to remember that choosing a name for a child is different than choosing a name for a pet. There are many factors to consider in the context of public perception and the child's future. Looking back at the situation with Game of Thrones fans who named their children after Daenerys before the story was even finished, there are some parallels. Expectations and reality can diverge greatly, leading to unexpected disappointments. The question of whether your spouse has done any research regarding the name chosen is important. For example, the word moon has a completely different meaning in Japanese. Using this information and contacting the grandmother could be crucial to the discussion, as it is unlikely that she would want to associate her grandchild with that meaning. A situation where a decision is made without unanimity often leads to conflict. Your spouse appears to have acted without considering your opinion, resulting in unintended consequences. The suggestion of using public opinion in your favor by appealing to family and even social media may seem appealing, but this approach requires finesse and tact to avoid making the situation worse. My next story. At the age of 24, I always felt different from the rest of my family. More modest and reserved, I rarely shared their passion for sports. My younger brother Sam, age 21, stood out as a particularly talented athlete. His parents clearly favored him, allowing him to do almost anything he pleased. In cases of his misbehavior, the blame often fell on me, and believing Sam unconditionally, my parents chose to punish me. Once, when Sam scratched the door of his father's truck, the accusation was directed at me, resulting in the cancellation of my college graduation party. Another time, accusing me of ruining my mom's fabric scissors. Even though I wasn't even at home, Sam got away with it without punishment. Stories like this were not isolated. They all ended the same way. Sam made a mistake, the blame shifted to me, and I bore the punishment. Eventually, after graduation, I decided to start a new life on the other side of the country by enrolling in art school. This decision removed me from my family life. The only relative I kept in touch with was another brother, a year older than me. Our bond strengthened over time. Recently, my career took a significant leap forward with a new job. I shared this event with my brother Will. Unexpectedly, my mother suggested a family gathering to honor the occasion. Despite my hesitation, the promise of dinner at a favorite restaurant and the chance to see Will again after 2 years apart prompted me to agree. When I returned home, I found that Sam, still living with his parents, had changed little over the years. The day we met for dinner, Sam began to voice his displeasure with the choice of restaurant. He suggested a change of venue, wanting to avoid arguments between himself and his parents. Responding with a refusal, I emphasized my desire to enjoy the evening at this particular establishment, contrary to his preferences. Sam's reaction was harsh. He accused me of immaturity for my lack of willingness to compromise. The verbal altercation escalated, during which I expressed my opinion about his unwillingness to accept responsibility and his dependence on his parents. His mom took his side, rebuking me for being rude on the big day. In response to their criticism, I expressed my dissatisfaction with how their behavior affected my feelings of happiness from childhood. My father demanded an apology, to which I responded sharply, recalling past offenses and the lack of apology from their side after the prom incident. The situation escalated to the point that I chose to leave, preferring to spend the remaining time before my flight with my brother Will, who supported me, noting that my actions, though justified, sounded too rude. Will informed me that after I left, Mom had been very upset and had locked herself in her room. This news made me reflect on my actions and words, looking at the situation from a different angle. You were actually able to stand up to them, and that is admirable. A move like this could open your mom's eyes to how wrong they have been treating you. The important thing is that you have willpower on your side. A little reality can't hurt anyone and may help you both better understand the true nature of someone who is considered the golden child. I feel like you are not appreciated, especially in comparison to Sam. Living years under the shadow of unfair treatment is a challenge, and your feelings are absolutely justified. What's happening now may not seem right, but it raises questions about what was really expected of you. Your mom may be experiencing difficult feelings right now, but instead of acknowledging her role and taking responsibility, she may choose the path of self-pity, trying to portray herself as a victim. Nevertheless, try to keep your distance and avoid getting involved in conflicts. When thinking about favoritism in the family, it is important to understand that it can have different causes and manifestations. However, in your case it is painful, and I would like to suggest some ways to ease your condition. Remember that the future is in your hands and you can become the best version of yourself. Relationships with your brother and parents, while they may be a source of stress, but your own well-being should come first. A story that really surprised me. It happened 2 months ago. I am a 21-year-old girl. I was due to visit the zoo with my father and 23-year-old sister. Given that the UV index was expected to be quite high that day, I advised my sister to bring sunscreen with her. Contrary to my warning, she went out in a tank top without taking care to protect her skin and without taking sunscreen. I suggested that she use my cream before leaving, but she declined the offer, deeming it unnecessary. I also offered to take the cream with me, but she didn't want to burden herself with an extra item. I opted for long-sleeved clothes and only brought sunscreen for my face, which, as it turned out, was later needed. By mid-afternoon, as my sister began to turn red from the sun, she wished she had used my cream. However, I explained that the cream brought from Korea was exclusively for the face and was more expensive than a regular body cream. As an alternative, I offered her the flannel I had taken in case of cooler evening air, but due to the heat, she declined and ended up getting sunburned. My sister believes it was my fault as I had sunscreen that I did not share. In turn, I believe she is responsible, as I warned her in advance and offered her all the necessary protection. This is not the first time she has forgotten something important and counted on my help to solve the problem. Sunscreen plays a key role in preventing sunburn. Your sister, however, chose not to use it. Although sunscreen is available for purchase at the zoo, the price may be higher. Nevertheless, unsure the cost of a topical cream is unlikely to compare to the price of the imported face cream you still chose to bring with you. Despite initially refusing to use sunscreen, refusing to have it in your bag just in case, deciding not to wear sun protective clothing, and ignoring the suggestion to take a long-sleeved shirt, your decision proved to be more costly both financially and comfortably, freeing her to take responsibility for her own actions. Yes, your sister had options that were offered to her repeatedly. She even refused to purchase protection on her own. Ultimately, her behavior seems unreasonable. This is a grown woman shifting responsibility for the consequences of her actions to others. Contrary to the popular belief that everyone is to blame, I want to emphasize the seriousness of the situation. Skin cancer is really no joke. A day's stay at the zoo without protection can trigger changes in skin cells leading to cancer. Realizing the value of expensive products, like you, I too use cosmetics from South Korea. However, when my partner forgot to apply sunscreen last month, I didn't hesitate to offer mine because his physical health is more important to me than the cost of the product.